Republicans aren't even involved in the culture war. Who was it? Jesse Kelly, I think, said Democrats won the culture war because they were the only ones fighting it.
So this is I know I'm not supposed to do this, but this is William F. Buckley. This is the problem with his famous phrase. So his famous phrase was, a conservative is someone who stands athwart history yelling stop, right? Well, if you're just someone who's standing athwart history yelling stop, and yet other people are going to say, hey, let's try this, let's go here,
was he insulting conservatives?
No, that was his. That is like his. This is like his most famous quote that's attributed to him.
Who would want to be a conservative,
right? And he's not actually. Now, if you are a conservative, you can say, well, I see what he's saying. We need to preserve institutions and social norms and culture and morality that have sustained us for all these years, et cetera, et cetera. But if that's your tactic, to just sit there and say, stop, we're not going to do any of this anymore, it's like, no one's going to come to your party, man.
Yeah. But
nobody's going to show up.
He's right.
You're not offering anyone anything.
He is right. That's exactly what conservatives are.
And conservatives
have
followed that for 70 years.
But he's identified the group. They didn't adhere to what he said. He identified a group of people that just said, we're good here. And that's it. They're not fighting. So I don't know.
Right, standing. So you just stand there and say stop. Paul Ryan with his little bow tie.
I think there's a lot of things in this country that need to change, but I think there's a lot of things that are good. We want to keep the good. Imagine what these communists are, the overstate, the party members. They represent a group that says, we got this amazing skyscraper, let's tear the whole thing down and then live amongst the rubble as we rebuild. Then you have conservatives who are like, the building's fine as it is, stop. And then you've got other people who are saying, we can probably improve this building quite a bit. Let's keep it and get rid of the broken parts and put in good parts.
I like those people. That's how I identify.
That makes the most sense. So I don't identify with those who are like, burn it down.
This is my problem with the way that a lot of people have been going against the CRT debate, the critical race theory debate, and don't get me wrong, I think people are doing fantastic work, Chris Rupo specifically on that front. But if you're just going to be one of these governors who says, I'm banning critical race theory and critical race theory bad, like, okay, but if you ever come out of power, they can just take that away, right? You need to be explaining to people the alternative. You need to be explaining to people what is, number one, true history, but then also why, right? Why are these things considered good and this is considered bad? You can't just say to people, we're going to ban this and this is out.
Then I think that's why I think conservative is probably the wrong word. Populist maybe is a better word for it.
I think so.
When we had Charlie Kirk on the show, he mentioned that during Occupy, the conservative movement wasn't ready for a lot of these things, like calling out the corporations and censorship and Wall Street and big tech and things like that. And I'm like, I don't think conservatives ever are, because they're literally always just saying stop.
Reactionary? Is that what those reactionaries are?
Reactionaries oppose the revolution.
Right, so reactionary is a term that came up during the French Revolution. And so it was actually a propaganda term used by the Jacobins and the murderous authoritarians of the French Revolution for their political opponents, who said, hey, maybe we shouldn't kill everybody and destroy all of French culture. Maybe we can just go around executing people because we decide we want to. They were called reactionary. So this was actually a propaganda term used by the Red Terror.
Right. So back to the conservative statement, the populist is maybe a better word. The libertarians are very much involved, but they don't like Donald Trump. I think with Dave Smith and the Mises Caucus, you actually have strong principled libertarians now who very much so will say they don't like Donald Trump, but very much so will oppose a lot of what the Democrats are doing. And I think that's something a lot of the populists actually agree with. So they might not agree with criticism of Trump, but I think the one thing that Trump animated, or the one thing about Trump that animated a lot of people, was anti-establishment. I think there's substantially more anti-establishment people in whatever this faction is. So I don't know what the right word is to describe them. The people who are actually demanding things. You look at people like, Lauren Boebert or Marjorie Taylor Greene, who actually say, hey, we want a thing. Most Republicans are like, we say no to Democrats. I'm like, well, what are you for? What are you actually advocating for?
Okay, I'm smiling right now because you mentioned those, and I want everyone to know that I didn't say anything to Tim prior to this show, but you mentioned those two names just because you see as two people who are fighting, right?
You look in the news and they're actively fighting for things.
When I said that they were potentially members of Congress that were on the Joe Biden list, it was exactly those two: Marjorie Taylor Greene and Laurie Boebert.
I just
Just those two? Like,
Those
here's
are the-
our list. It's two
so
people.
so far. I mean, again,
Yeah,
I
they're
don't
gonna-
know
they-
if this is the final list, but those are the two members of Congress that I was told.
You
that
know what
would be
they've
on the
done?
list that
You
they
know
are
what? You know,
looking
you know
at.
what big tech has done? By banning people on the right, they have made sure that the only voices you hear are the, for the most part, spineless, weak Republicans who just say, "Please stop, Democrats." The fierce, fighting, angry people who are like, "This is what we want and why we want it," all have been banned. Not all, but mostly. So now what they've done is,
Well, they're banned or atomized.
what do you mean? What do you mean by atomized?
So atomized is a great example for Marjorie Taylor Greene, right?
Yeah.
It's like
Right.
we've isolated you, we've broken you down to your constituent atoms. You're not a Republican, right? And they force her to go through these struggle sessions. And
even the Republicans do.
Right, and that's what I'm going to say. Like, even McCarthy is kind of saying, well, I'm going to strip her of her committees, but I'm not going to kick her out of the caucus and all that. Like, so he's going along with it.
They want to control
He
it.
goes along with this. So this atomization of it's part of an otherizing. This goes back to, it actually goes back to what the German Stasi would do in East Germany, because when they realized that it got to a certain point where they were disappearing too many people, and they realized that, okay, this is getting a little bit too untenuous for us. Well, okay, what we're going to do then is, instead of disappearing you and locking you up, because that's hard, it costs money, right? You need to go through trial, etc. We're just going to destroy your reputation. Right, we're just going to destroy what people think of you. We're going to smear you. We're going to attack you. We're going to use all of our power implements so that people, you can be out there and you can have your quote unquote free speech, but no one will listen to you.
Yeah. They amazingly condemn Marjorie Taylor Greene for things she said before she was even in office.
Right.
Kevin McCarthy goes along with everything the Democrats say, and it's very obvious. The establishment Republicans and the Democrats are part of the uniparty. And right now the Republicans are just frantic because there is an invasive force of populists who have come in and started making changes. So maybe what'll happen is they'll put out that list. Oh, Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene are on that list, huh? I'd imagine the America First candidates, the right-wing populist candidates, obviously huge overlap, the ones who are trying to primary, they're all going to be labeled extremists. There's going to be stories in every major newspaper about, oh, these Republicans, they're evil and dangerous. We can't let them win.
And by the way, I don't know if anyone saw this, but this is a huge problem that the populists have, right? Liz Cheney, right? Liz Cheney, who's sort of the avatar of sort of the anti-populist. She's the avatar of the establishment wing, or she's been propped up as this. She just raised $1.8 million, right? She actually put up the highest numbers for any House member. Right, that's Liz Cheney. Now, I'd like to go through that 1.8 million and
where'd
see
she get it
exactly
from?
where's all that coming from.
Well, the squad members raise most of their money outside their districts.
Squad raised a ton of money. This is going to come down to a money fight, and there are extremely powerful interests that are fighting against this. And so I do believe, by the way, that populists have the upper hand in terms of numbers right now. I really do. But the money side is going to get filtered in.
They've broken the working class. Oh, sure, you might have the working class on your side. 1 million grassroots donors who are too broke now because the economy's been destroyed to actually give you a penny to help your campaign.
Yeah, when the Roman Empire fell apart completely, the middle class eviscerated and evaporated. It was gone. They completely disseminated the working middle class.
You've got these elites worth, the net worth of the billionaires went up substantially. The major corporations' stock values started to skyrocket. Small businesses destroyed. And what did that help do? Destroy grassroots activism. Bernie Sanders famously had an average donation of $23 or whatever that number was.
I am once again asking.
But Bernie was able to rise up because he had the people on his side, and all of that money flowing into him empowered him greatly. Well, be it fortuitous for the establishment that they have destroyed the economy and hurt the working class and made them mostly destitute and homeless and living off of government welfare and unemployment bills and child tax credits. Now you could have 10 million supporters. If they're too broke to donate to you, they don't. But the wealthy elites whose net worth went up, they can donate whatever they want to whoever they want. Super PACs.
So we went to the, you mentioned the workers, right? We were out in Nevada for the UFC fight. We went to Joe Rogan and Dave Chappelle the night before, and then because Rogan's in town because he does commentary, so we go to McGregor and Poirier. And at the stadiums where we were going, at the arenas where we were going to show up, the concession stands, the line was like 40 minutes long for each of them. Why? You would go up and you see there's only 2 people working behind the stand there.
Wow.
That's it. Right, because that town, that city that's the entertainment capital of the state, right? That's their entire economy. It was decimated by COVID, and now they have a worker shortage because there's so many people that are living off of government. I say, hey, I get this money for free. For that, I got to go deal with drunk people. I got to go deal with whatever. You got my order wrong, so I got to go deal with emotional abuse. Why go back to work if I can still get government money for this?
It's a
massive worker shortage out there.
It's a time bomb. It's the bill will come due. It's which law of thermodynamics, Ian?
Perhaps the second law of thermodynamics.
Second law.
To be honest, I don't know. Are you talking about when an object in motion will remain in motion unless forced upon?
This idea that you can get things for free without making things.
Oh, free energy.
Yeah. Eventually, what happens is the value of the dollar becomes zero, because why work?
Well, the problem with the thermodynamic thing that says you can't get more energy out of a system than you put into it only assumes that there's a closed system that you're working within. But in reality, there are no closed systems. Energy can always come from further away than we knew it existed. So I do believe 0 point energy
You mean
is
like
possible.
slave labor in China?
Yeah, like there will always be more slaves. We can always have more children and make them more slaves. I'm kind of being joking around, but I'm also being honest.
Americans spending money and not producing anything won't last
We'll
forever.
have to default on it. We're going to have to default on the federal
Right,
government.
and by the way, this all goes back to the 90s. This goes back to NAFTA. This goes back to China and the WTO.
Which goes back to 79.
This goes back. It goes back and back and back. This was the idea. China will be the manufacturing base, right? That will be China. That will be moved to China, right? And then America will be the consumers. America will say, you sit there, you're going to, whatever is the new movie that gets rolled off the assembly line, you're all going to go watch it. And now they don't even need to do that. Now you're just streaming, right? You can just sit in your home and you're going to have it delivered to you, and you click this and you say, oh, I'm going to watch this. And then you just go on to the next one, and you go on to the next one.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.